NTA International News.
President Muhammadu Buhari frowns at Nigeria's present rank in the global sporting arena as Super Falcons get reassurance of payments of entitlements. Rivers State rerun elections. Presidency cautions players against violence, rigging and intimidation of opponents. Global focus on corruption and impediment to sustainable development as Nigeria joins the world to mark International Anti-Corruption Day. Hello, it's my pleasure to welcome you to NTA International News this hour. I'm Nancy Godi Angunehu. We take off on a sad note. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has confirmed a twin bomb blast in Maiduguri Market, Adamawa State, today, Friday. NEMA is here to brief newsmen on the number of casualties. We shall bring you details in our subsequent bulletins. We turn to electoral matters. President Muhammadu Buhari has called on all political parties, their candidates, other stakeholders, and people of the Rivers State to ensure that the federal and state legislative rerun elections are conducted without rigging, violence, and intimidation of opponents and electoral officials. President Buhari reminds politicians and their supporters in Rivers State to put the higher interest of the people of the state in mind as they go to the polls on Saturday, while calling on security and law enforcement agencies to exhibit professionalism and non-partisanship in the discharge of their constitutional duties. Even in the face of extreme provocations, President Buhari directed them to deal decisively with troublemakers and those bent on violating the sanctity of the electoral process. He also enjoins the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to give transparency and fairness to the electoral exercise in Rivers State. Yet, on Rivers State election, Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris says about 28,000 officers and men have been deployed for that civic duty. We'll also bring you details of that report. President Muhammadu Buhari has described as unacceptable Nigeria's present ranking in the global sporting arena and challenged sports administrators in the country to take advantage of the nation's resource endowments for glorious outings. This was at the official presentation of a trophy for the first ever National Youth Open Water Swimming Competition named after him. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Youth Unity Cup 2016, the PMB Open Water Swimming Competition, soon to be held in Abuja, is aimed at appreciating the unbridled commitment by the Nigerian leader to sanitizing and building a better Nigeria for the youth. President Muhammadu Buhari, who promised necessary support for the competition, said Nigeria has no reason whatsoever not to be celebrated in sports within and without the African continent, given its size and population.
Everybody expects Nigeria to perform because of quality of human and material resources. So this puts a lot of responsibility, especially on you, the youth. You just have to prove, not only to ECOWAS, Africa, but to the rest of the world, that our size and our number is not for nothing. Small countries come out, they specialize in some sports aspect, and then the whole world are looking for them on the map. So the big countries like us, we have to try and keep them in their small places while we take the leadership by sheer size and resources that have been endowed us by God.
The event also provided the opportunity for President Buhari to formally break his silence on his sporting interests early in life, saying for obvious reasons he avoided boxing and football in favor of the long-distance races.
When I was in school, I played hockey. You hold a stick, I hold a stick. If you hit me, I hit you back. But I was so lean that football, they can break my leg. And in boxing, I may have a longer reach, but I don't have a heavier punch. So I am very careful about what I played and what I participate in. And thank goodness I preserve myself very well.
The chairman, National Planning and Implementation Committee of the competition, Senator Kabiru Ibrahim Gaya, said the Youth Unity Cup to be held at the Jabi Lake waterfront is an exceptional initiative towards achieving a massive turnaround in sports development in the country.
The idea for the competition is to raise a pool of responsible young Nigerian swimmers to lead healthy, purposeful and patriotic life into adulthood and to promote cohesive national peace, unity and security among the youth in Nigeria.
For Youth and Sports Minister Solomon Dalung, the competition is worthy of support by his ministry because of his focus in harnessing the talent of the youth as well as promoting the cause of national unity.
Nigeria is in dire need of unity. Nigeria as a country must be united, and this unity has been carefully packaged by the organizers around your personality and leadership charisma.
The minister also used the forum to react to media reports credited to him that the federal government was not anticipating victory for the Super Falcons at the last African Championship, describing them as baseless and unfounded.
The commitment of the federal government to the support of the Falcons is indeed overwhelming. That explains why the Vice President himself had to abandon his tight schedule to visit the players in camp before they proceeded to Cameroon. That is evidence of preparation for victory. And so the federal government was prepared because it has records of the antecedent of performance of the players.
The issue of non-payment of allowances to the nation's athletes, the minister said, is deeply rooted in history, and President Muhammadu Buhari is committed to addressing the challenge. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir David Lawal, says in spite of the economic challenges in the country, the federal government will continue to cater for every emergency in the country. He said this when he played host to the Senate Committee on Ecology and Climate Change in Abuja. Debola Brookslyn Sunday reports.
The Ecological Fund is designed as an intervention facility to address the multifarious ecological problem ravaging communities in the country. The committee, led by Senator Abubakar Ibrahim, is to ascertain the judicious use of the fund. Babachir David Lawal says the present administration remains committed to cushioning the effects of any challenge in the country.
13 billion, that's an added to existing projects, so we expect that in the current capital account will be 19 billion. But what is now here in the CBN is 33 billion. The issue with the Ecological Fund is that the demands outweigh the resources. Because of some of the criticisms we were getting about people who say that it's really lopsided, we decided to produce this data that is here.
We have gone to all your agencies. We're very happy and we're very satisfied with what we have seen so far. We have come to realize that the change mantra is really working.
The Ecological Fund is derived from 1% of the Federation account. Debola Brookslyn Sunday, NTA News.
As the world leaders take decisive steps to reduce greenhouse gas emission, the role of the private sector will also be significant in this move. In this respect, the National Association of Jatropha Grower and Processors is to collaborate with states to mobilize farmers to cultivate 2.5 million hectares of land to promote large-scale plantation of Jatropha crop in the next 5 years. In what ways can this be beneficial to Nigeria, we may ask. Mia Ogidi has a chat with some Jatropha growers and now reports.
Jatropha is a tropical crop and the Nigerian soil is very fertile for its cultivation. It matures after 4 years. Very rich in oil that can be refined into biodiesel with low sulfur, and this reduces the amount of gas emitted from automobiles. The oil sourced from it, when processed, can be used as lubricants for engines, soap, body cream, animal feed, candlelight, and mosquito repellent.
We know that the government is capable because before they supported cassava plantation. Now the present government supporting rice plantation, and it's succeeding. So we believe that the energy that has been put into all these ones, if they can be put to the cultivation of this jatropha, we shall have a success.
Up to the pump station, we are going to take the whole thing. Planting jatropha, harvesting jatropha, extracting oil from jatropha, refining the jatropha crude oil now to biodiesel. Now, in all these things, there are byproducts. The byproduct of extraction of seeds now to produce jatropha crude oil is organic fertilizer.
The Jatropha Growers Association is therefore appealing for the provision of improved varieties through the collaboration of universities and the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Mayor Ogede, NTA News.
The International Anti-Corruption Day is observed on the 9th of December every year. The day, which is instituted by the United Nations to raise awareness about evils of corruption with a view to combating and preventing it, has as its theme corruption and impediments to the Sustainable Development Goals. Mitai Rainbe reports on the dimensions of corruption in the Nigerian society and how this scourge can be dealt with.
The hydra-headed monster called corruption is common to all societies across the world. According to Nigerian laws, acts of corruption include giving and receiving bribes, embezzlement of public funds, abuse of public office for private gain, falsification of public documents, to mention a few.
Of late, a high percentage of petitions have been coming in from persons who have been deceived into giving money for employment. Immigration is recruiting, civil defense is recruiting, who can get you placement, pay 250,000. And I would like to use this forum to advise all those who are paying such monies that it comes under the ICPC Act as bribe giving.
Despite public outcry against acts of corruption in Nigeria, weak institutions, bureaucratic bottlenecks, and the laxity of corruption watchdogs have been cited as some reasons why corruption still bedevils the society.
Putting policy in place, but to follow the policy to the latter, we always lack in it. We have put the law in place. The law has not been able to take its course. All of us must put our hand on deck to see that not only the internally generated revenue, even international organizations that are donating to the healthcare services in this country, that there is result for the investment. Corruption is an endemic disease that has to be feared even more than Ebola or HIV/AIDS.
The renewed zeal with which the President Buhari-led administration is fighting corruption, however, presents a silver lining in the dark sky.
Unlike the previous times or previous years when nobody was talking about corruption, and so we were doing things with impunity. Corruption does no good for anybody. The earlier we all shied away from it, the better for the system.
There is consensus that the ongoing fight against corruption should be supported by all Nigerians in the quest to bequeath a better society for future generations. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
More on fighting corruption, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has unveiled the report on corruption risk assessment carried out in Lagos and Abuja International Airport. Chairman of the commission, Ebunta, said the exercise was rewarding. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu reports.
Presenting the report to the public, the commission's chairman said the exercise has identified some levels of malpractices and corruption among officials of the aviation sector. He said findings have shown that 62.2% of passengers at the airport confirmed that officials at the airport always demand for bribe, while 52.5% said they have cause to give bribe due to the system on ground. Mr. Ekboyenta said the situation has now improved due to the intervention of the commission.
And I must say that there's been a massive and drastic drop in open requests for issuance of bribes and taking unethical conduct at the airports.
I thanked the ICPC for a job well done
It was a very good job, as we all saw by the presentation. It was quite detailed, and I believe it will be very useful for the federal government.
Goodwill messages were presented by agencies, especially those working directly at the airport, with the promise to adhere strictly to the laid down rules and regulations. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliyakubu, NTA News.
This is the news reaching you from NTA International, Africa's window to the world. More news ahead. Please stay.
Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service, NAS, is a regulatory agency of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture charged with the responsibility of safeguarding the nation's agricultural economy. Therefore, the federal government wants all exporters, importers, customs license clearing agents, logistics and warehouse managers, and producers of all agricultural products to pass through NAS for quarantine inspection and certification before customs clearance. NAS is the only agency that issues phytosanitary certification necessary for the exportation of plant products. So, all agro produce must pass through the agency for quarantine inspection and certification. Nigeria must produce quality food, eat quality food, and export quality food. This is in line with the federal government's quest to make Nigeria a net exporter of quality food. Join Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service to move Nigeria forward.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
The delay in the screening of Ibrahim Magu for appointment as substantive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is neither deliberate nor an attempt to frustrate the anti-graft crusade of the present administration. Chairman, Senate Committee on Works, Senator Kabir Gaya, gave the assurance after an audience with President Muhammadu Buhari. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has more.
Senator Kabiru Ibrahim Gaya, who is a ranking APC lawmaker from Kano State, told newsmen that the Senate is on the same page with President Muhammadu Buhari on the fight against corruption, and Ibrahim Magu will soon be screened for possible confirmation.
Senate is committed to fighting corruption. We are committed. We make sure that, yes, unless we resolve issue of corruption in this country, it will be very difficult for us to go forward, because corruption is dragging us 2 steps backwards when we make 1 step forward.
As a matter of fact, Senator Gaya said a bill he personally sponsored has scaled first reading in the Senate on the need to set up special codes for anti-corruption and money laundering to give more impetus to the anti-graft war.
This government of President Muhammadu Buhari is fighting corruption, and if we are not careful, corruption is also fighting us now. You find that court cases on corruption have been lasting for years. So therefore, those funds recovered cannot be utilized because they have caveat on them and that there is court cases going on. So therefore, all cases related to this will not go to this court, and then this court will have a time limit of taking out cases and finishing those cases within those periods, ranging between 3 months to 9 months or 1 year maximum. The cases should be dispersed, and then funds recovered should now go back to the Treasury.
The bill is now awaiting second reading. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Prospective and serving corps members must henceforth indicate their health status while filling either their mobilization forms or any form that requires stating one's health status. Chairman House Committee on Youth, Segu Adekula, stated this during the committee's oversight functions to NYSC camps. Or Lainka Ojo reports.
Oversight function by the House Committee on Youth saw members visit Rivers, Akwa Ibom and Bayelsa State's NYSC orientation camps, where they also inspected facilities. Addressing the corps members, Chairman of the committee expressed sadness over the death of 3 youth corps members participating in the 2016 Batch B Stream 1 exercise in Zamfara, Kano and Bayelsa. He appealed to youth corps members to always own up when they are faced with challenges.
We are putting in place a framework to make sure that we enact a bill to improve on your welfare.
The committee members also urged states and local government councils to discharge their statutory responsibility to the youth corps members posted to them. Olainka Ojo, NTA News.
The National Directorate of Employment, NDE, has flagged off large-scale toothpick production in Akure to galvanize the economy to full bloom through the use of local materials. Emmanuel Anyimiro reports that toothpick is one of the items on import prohibition list.
The idea is to support the economic diversification and buy made in Nigeria drive of the federal government to ease the economic hardship people are confronted with. ND has encouraged 2 sets of people who came up with the idea of toothpick and pencil production using bamboo trees.
We recognize that as a new business in Nigeria and they may have some teething problems as well. So we station our officers to be with them in terms of business support, to watch over them as they go on until they stabilize.
The major equipment we imported back from China, because China is the largest producer of toothpick in the world. So the funds were being given to us by NDA.
If you are not looking for white-collar job, it will create employment. And from there you can diversify too.
For pencil production, all machines have been acquired except for urea, formaldehyde, resin powder, which requires a waiver and approval for the production to kick off. The toothpick and pencil factories are located at the same place, such that the byproduct from the toothpick can be used to produce pencil sticks, which makes it a one-stop production outfit. From Akure in Ondo State, Emmanuel Anyimiro, NTA News.
Stakeholders laud federal government's decision to use the national identification number to avoid unnecessary duplication. This and more with Chiazalam Ekie on Business News.
It's good to have you join us on this segment. Stakeholders in the banking sector have lauded the federal government's decision to use the national identification number to authenticate eligible voters in future and avoid unnecessary duplications in the midst of scarce resources. Rogers Nwoke believes that having a central form of identity, particularly in the banking sector, will help identify serial borrowers and defaulters and also make the work of credit bureau and bankers easier.
In the long run, ultimately, every form of identification that we are doing today will be consolidated. We've made quite significant progress with that. The idea is when all this is done, your driver's license, your bank verification number, everything about you will be consolidated into one point that with a single identity proof, we'll know who we are dealing with.
Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria sold about 283 billion naira worth of treasury bills to mop up liquidity. Traders say overnight lending rates also rose to 20% after the bills were sold, but later dropped to 16%. And finally, let's take a quick look at some commodities prices. That's the package at this time. I am Chiazalam Ekie. The news continues. Please stay with us.
Thank you, Chiazalam. And for the latest on the foreign scene, South Korea's parliament has voted to impeach President Park Geun-hye after a corruption scandal.